We're back.
You're really just trying to hurt me now.
Well, because here's the truth. So in case you missed it, Texas does beat Alabama by 10, 34-24. Jalen, so Joe, let me start off here, okay? Jalen Milroe has to be pulled. How many tweets did I send you last night during that game? By the way, while LSU was playing, saying they got to pull him. Well, he throws 2 picks. They don't pull him. And look, I know you're going to go in on Tommy Rees. I get it. They had multiple times where receivers and running backs were running wide ass open. Texas did not have an answer. You know what the first thought I had when Milroe was missing those wide open receivers? What in the outright hell is Dylan Gabriel going to do? That's what I thought, because I'm like,
good point.
Hey, man, okay, Jalen Milroe can't hit the broadside of a barn, and that's fine. What's Dylan Gabriel going to do if those dudes are wide ass open? That's number one. Number two, if Jalen Milroe's your answer and you won't pull him in the middle of the game, how bad is Ty Simpson? That's
right.
That's number two.
Right.
Final for me is, if you're going to use a quarterback like Jalen Milroe in the dual threat, Joe, last night he had 15 carries, 44 yards, 2.9 yards per carry. Okay. And this entire offseason, we had Alabama fans in the midst of this chat. They would come after us. Well, maybe not you, but they definitely come after me. I blame the loss that Alabama had on 2 people. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Bill O'Brien and Pete Golding. It's their faults that they lost.
Oh, man.
I thought Pete Golding was the problem. I thought Bill O'Brien was the problem.
So perfect. The irony, Blake. The irony of this is so hilariously perfect, because their offense stunk. Their defense was inconsistent. At home, a game that you should have won, you couldn't finish the game. I give a lot of credit. I know that you highlighted all the issues here for Alabama. I give Texas a lot of credit for doing exactly what they needed to do to win this football
Joe,
game.
they got some breaks. The fumbled snap that they don't get possession of, the running back picks up, gets the first down. If Alabama gets a stop there, if Alabama gets a stop there, Joe, we could be talking about a completely different game. Completely different game. That's why everybody's like, oh, Texas this, Texas that. Bullshit. You're a fumbled snap running back picking up the ball and getting the first down away from getting your cheeks clapped by a quarterback that has no business being in there.
Luck was really on their side. Definitely was on their side on certain spots, but their execution on what was most important to win this football game, I mean, it was almost flawless. It wasn't perfect, but it was damn near flawless. They bottled up Jalen Milroe. They played fantastic contain. I really love watching Anthony Hill. That kid
dude's
is
a dude. He's such a dude, man.
A bolt of lightning. He kind of reminds me of Harold Perkins in the way that he's an off-ball linebacker.
He's bigger than Perkins. He's not as fast as Perkins, though.
Right. He can really get after the quarterback, even though he was recruited as an off-ball linebacker. He is going to be fun to watch in his time in Texas.
You going to keep him off ball now?
Right. You got to just line him up and send him to go, man. You got to keep setting him up to succeed, because he was a problem. Caden Proctor could not freaking block him. That was a scary day for that Alabama offensive line. But not only did they bottle up Jalen Milroe, they loaded the box, and they gave up some of those long touchdown receptions, some of those long splash plays throwing the ball, because they
Donnie Mitchell, Xavier Worthy.
Well, no, the other way around. Alabama was able to produce big plays because Texas basically said
some too, but yeah, you're right.
Texas basically said, we know that you're going to make a mistake eventually, so go ahead. We'll give you a couple. We're going to load the damn box. You're not going to be able to run the ball at all. Take your shot. You're going to get 2 of them, but the rest of this game, you're going to throw picks and you're going to make mistakes, and that exactly happened. On the other side of the ball, though, you mentioned Xavier Worthy, Jatavion Sanders, A.D. Mitchell. Quinn Ewers has not been consistent up until this point, and I have said that it felt like a guy whose confidence was rattled. After he suffered that injury, he lacked confidence. This game, he looked very confident. Once he was in rhythm, he was placing the ball exactly where it needed to be.
Okay, calm down.
Wait. Come on, some of those throws that he made
He
were
threw the ball for
fantastic.
60% completion percentage, and you want to tell me he was darting shit up? No, he was not.
He wasn't perfect, but for the fact that he was 0 for 7 on deep throws against Rice,
right.
to completely turn around and connect with Xavier Worthy and AD Mitchell the way that he did, man, I give him a lot of credit.
I don't disagree.
He played exactly as he needed to play, and the rest of the season, if he can be accurate on the deep ball, as accurate as he was against Alabama, it is going to be really freaking hard to stop that offense. Because what is difficult to stop is receivers with elite speed and a quarterback who can release the ball as quickly as he can. That is a combination for disaster for a lot of defenses, especially in the Big 12.
I think Sark called a beautiful game, an outright beautiful game. I will give viewers this. Some of those, there were drops, but he still's around 60% completion percentage. That has not really changed. He did do a lot better throwing the ball down the field. You can't take that away from him, though, Joe. Let's not forget, though. Let's not forget. There were some critical third downs in there, that they got very lucky in. I look at the third down efficiency. Joe, they went 7 of 18 on third down. 7 of 18. That's not good. There are a lot of decisions on third down that Quinn Ewers made that were wrong, and they wind up being incomplete. Balls being batted down. Let's not act as if, though, if he gets in that same situation again against a team that has a capable quarterback, things can be different. Now, I don't want to take a lot away from Texas. You're right. Okay, I don't want it to seem like I'm poo-pooing on them. Mm-hmm. They won a game against a really good team. I still think Bama's a good team. I still think they can win 9-10 games. Okay, they just faced a better team than them last night. There's not a lot of teams in the SEC right now that could probably take down Bama even with Milroe. But like I said, if there's the problem that I have is I walk away from this game more worried about Alabama than Texas being, we're back.
I get that.
They have a massive issue at quarterback. Joe, we come out on here. Well, hold on. We come out on the show. We talk about A&M. Okay, we talk about what they're doing offensively. You talked about Tyler Van Dyke this past week. We talk about Jaden Daniels. He gets obliterated. KJ Jefferson. All these quarterbacks get obliterated. Jalen Milroe is everything that Twitter says that he is, to some extent. What all these other quarterbacks are, that's what Jalen Milroe is. The 2 interceptions were as horrible as I can ever remember Alabama quarterback ever making. Ever. That was horrendous quarterback play. He was late on all of his throws. He didn't look like he was in rhythm. He missed wide open receivers. And eventually, that Alabama defense was broke down at the end. That was the most Les Miles type of game that Alabama played that I've ever remember in my life. You cannot come in here today and say Texas looked great here, and here. Third down, they were horrendous. They're one bounce away from Alabama potentially going in and taking another lead, a 10-point lead on them. Joe, Texas looked good. Yes, I will concede that and tell you, yes, they did. Let's not walk away from this and act like Alabama offensively did not look horrendous.
Right. I think it's both things. I think that now that we're talking about this more, I think that it's not one or the other. I really do think that Texas.
Ask you this question and you can answer it.
Okay.
How can it not be when your quarterback played that bad?
Right. That was what I was getting at here, is that it's both sides of the coin here. Texas did exactly what they needed to do to ride momentum into the end of the season, because again, the rest of their schedule, like their toughest opponents are going to be Oklahoma. It's going to be, I don't know who's totally off the top of my head who's on their schedule, but Oklahoma is going to be one of their hardest opponents. I have them ranked as a top 10 team. They looked a little rough this week against SMU, but that's still one of their hardest remaining games. They don't have any other difficult non-conference opponents. They can do some dangerous things this season. If TCU can run the table and make the college football playoff, Texas can do it too, as long as Sark doesn't do some dumb shit where they go out to play like Texas Tech and Tyler Shuck throws for 400 yards.
Who, by the way, gave Oregon everything that they wanted.
Right. He literally could do that if you don't show up ready to play. And it literally happened last year when they should have dominated them a couple weeks after the Alabama game last year. But what you're saying about Alabama is completely true. And that's why I was so frustrated in the preseason by picking Alabama to play in the college football playoff, picking them as a top 5 team.
What was that about? You had people making them the national title winners.
All of these generic media folks were putting them as the same team that we're used to seeing because it's Nick Saban and it's Alabama. But if you unpack this roster and you point out the issues that they have, all of them showed up against Texas, a team that historically has not shown up in these games. If that was a normal Alabama team, they would have won that football game.
Joe, let's call it what it is. Let's call it what it is now.
Yeah.
If you go back and rewatch that game, Texas did show up. I can't disagree with that. But in critical crunch time plays on third down, they didn't. Texas didn't show up in critical plays, though. You can't go 5 of 18 or whatever, or 7 of 18 and tell me, oh, well, you look great on third down. Bullshit. The defense is getting off the field. Joe, they gave 2 of those third downs, 2 of them came on that last drive when Texas would go in and score. So spare me that game was, or Texas offensively was kicking their ass all night long. That's not what happened. Jalen Milroe throws 2 interceptions. He continues to get sacked. And here's the biggest thing. We talked about Pete Golding. Alabama fans got on my ass because they were like, well, Blake's from Hammond. Pete Golding's from Hammond. He coached at Blake's alma mater at Southeastern Louisiana. So he's a Pete Golding homer. Joe, they didn't have 1 fucking sack. Not one. And you know what? Yes, I'm going to defend Pete Golding for just a minute. Defensively, in the end, you put a true freshman back there, and what was it, Downs or whatever the kid's name is going to be an amazing player, a fantastic safety. Sark went after his ass all night long and made him make decisions. Joe, stop me if you've heard this before. Kirk Herbstreit and Chris Fallis saying, here comes another bubble screen. That's what they ran all in the first half, and Alabama couldn't stop it. They have a massive issue. I know you want to talk about Tommy Rees. We can do that now. Saban, for the first time in his career, I don't think he's got his head on straight. I really don't. You hire Tommy Rees, who is a average at best offensive coordinator, okay? You hire Kevin Steele, who I don't think called a bad game for the first 3 quarters of that game. His dudes got tired.
He got set up for failure, though, by the offense.
Thank you. And we want to blame Alabama. People want to blame everything else, around Saban. For the first time, maybe ever, they're going to have to look at Saban and tell themselves it's on him.
That is the worst coaching staff that Saban has had, and it showed up.
Question.
I know that you don't want to take away. I know you don't want to give as much blame to Tommy Rees because Milroe struggled. He had a very bad game.
Milroe being there, Tommy Rees, Joe. I know Tyler Buckner sucks cheeks. I get it. But he saw Jalen Milroe in that spring and said, well, at least I need to get somebody in here that can run my system.
I know that he had no options, but the play calling was so stupid. It was so stupid. Who's
that quarterback?
But I understand that you've got quarterback limitations, but at the same time, every series was like, run the ball up the middle, and then we're going to take a shot. That was the same crap that he did at Notre Dame, except it wasn't taking shots because they didn't have the threats. It was run the ball up the middle, and then slant to Michael Mayer.
That was what they ran every play. He has the quarterback. What else do you want him to do?
Be a little freaking creative. He's got athletes. He didn't try to get any of those guys in space. He didn't try to do anything.
Joe, they ran a bubble screen and he missed it by 7 yards. What are we talking about here?
Run some damn read option. They didn't run any of that stuff.
They did run read option. They ran multiple bullshit. Go rewatch the game. What are you watching? They ran
that game.
Joe, horseshit. This is how they stopped the read option. They would run it, the RPO behind it. The reason that Milroe would pull it and throw that little slant that would go to God's creation all over the place is because the DN or outside backer would crash down. They would send the safety down behind it. They would eliminate both of them. The DN would crash down. Here comes the safety. Milroe, please run. Remember the bad run that he had? It lost like 5 yards on 3rd and 2. That was a zone read. He made the wrong move. You got a backside slant to Jermaine Burton, a third grader. Hey, Ben, would you have made that throw? Yeah, Daddy. Okay, a third grader would have made that throw.
Again, I'm not disagreeing with you that Milroe played bad. My point is that Tommy Rees deserves just as much blame. He didn't call a good game at all. Again, I said this when he was at Notre Dame, and it happened in this game. Maybe I'm a little bit off base for how much they worked in some option plays. Fine. But my point is, and why he was a bad hire in the first place, is that he is the most predictable play calling. Because
I can't disagree with that.
Same thing, series in and series out. When shit doesn't work and you're an offensive or defensive play caller, you need to eventually, at a certain point in the game, whether it's halftime, before halftime, the third quarter, you got to make a transition and say, you know what? This isn't working. We got to try something different. What was working? Let's turn to some different things. And there was just no effort to do that. I jokingly said that they should run the wing T. They should probably run the goddamn wing T.
That was funny. That was funny.
But in all seriousness, if you can't throw the football, run the goddamn wing T. You've got this big ass offensive line. You've got all these running backs. You're not going to complete any passes. Just run the wing T. Something. I know I'm being a little hyperbolic, but still.
Now, here's the ultimate question. How bad does Ty Simpson stink for them not to turn to him?
I think eventually they're going to. I feel like they're going to.
Well, Joe, they don't have a choice. Like, here's the truth. Mm-hmm. If this were LSU, if this were A&M, if this were Ole Miss, that's where he needs to be is Ole Miss, by the way. Come on. If this were Florida, if this were anybody else, Jalen Milroe would get the time that he deserves to learn and grow. He doesn't have time to learn and grow at Alabama.
No. I think that, and maybe this is our final thought before we get to this next game.
That's fine.
Dylan Lonergan, I really think that if this doesn't work,
they're not putting in Lonergan.
He's been talked up to have been the best guy in the spring and during, or I don't know if he was there in the spring, but during training camp, it was talked up that he was the best guy amongst the quarterbacks. Give him a shot? Something. If none of these guys can do it,
give anybody a shot.
I don't think Buckner or Simpson clearly can't do it if they wouldn't turn to him. I feel like Lonergan is the best guy, and there is stubbornness.
But Joe, he's not turning to him either for a reason. This isn't.
Freshman.
Hold on. That's BS. And let me tell you something about Bama fans and Bama media. They will pump sunshine as far as the naked eye can see. That's horseshit now. Now, Lonergan might be able to come in and do some better things in the passing game. Sure. Is he worse than Milroe? I don't think so. But, Joe, they literally played freshman quarterback before. Tua Tagovailoa and Jalen Hurts say hello. Hold on.
Tua didn't play till the national championship game, though.
No, that's bullshit. That is complete and utter bullshit. They would kick the shit out of everybody, and at halftime, he'd come in.
Yeah, exactly. They would never start him.
So hold on 1 second. Just stay with me before we move on.
Okay.
You mean to tell me that in a national championship game, you will take the guy that brought you to the dance and put in a true freshman in Tua, who, by the way, didn't really have an amazing half. We remember him because of the throw, right? We remember him. He took a really bad sack. He threw, didn't look fantastic. But you won't pull Jalen Milroe. They
Right. That's why I don't think any of those options are
Who was
worth it.
the kid when Bama was playing USC that they pulled and put in for Jalen Hurts? The kid wound up going to like the Arizona State or some shit.
Yeah,
like
I know who you're talking about. He was really highly sought after recruit, and he sucked.
and they pulled in for Jalen Hurts. And by the way, Jalen Hurts fumbled on that first drive. He comes back and he never looks back. That's BS. Saban's getting and I could go on this for days. And Joe, people were like, "Oh, look, y'all better be scared of Saban." Andy Staples out there saying, "Oh, we should all be scared of Saban because he's giggling at press conferences." No, the Saban that kicks everybody ass is telling the media to suck his toes. Okay. Saban never is that friendly to the media when he's going to have a good team ever.
Yeah.
All right.
They're cooked.